This is the new 2024 Hyundai Kona Electric. It's the first of an all-new generation, and it's really quite impressive. Just not on these roads. The Hyundai Kona that Canadians know and continue to buy in tremendous numbers is back, this time for a new generation. This is the 2024, the beginning of the second gen of this popular model, and it's grown quite a bit. Just straight off the bat, you should know that this is not quite the compact crossover that you know from before. It's 15 centimeters longer now, and that's great. You get another 3 inches back there, cool, but it does feel bigger. The real story here, though, is that this car was designed first and foremost as an EV. This is a big step for the Kona, and in this affordable segment. And here in the Kona EV, Hyundai has applied a lot of what it's learned from the bigger, higher-priced Ioniq models to this $50,000 car. So off the top then, what are we looking at here? Well, the Kona Electric comes different ways in different parts of the world, but for Canada, we get a 65.2 kilowatt-hour battery. According to Hyundai, that should be good for a pretty nice 420 kilometers. Powering the front wheels only, that setup delivers 201 horsepower and 188 pound-feet of torque. That's a pretty good little setup for a car of this size and purpose, and as an everyday driver, really well suited in proportion. So, what is this latest generation Kona like to drive? Well, the thing is that it really depends on the model. This here electric, especially around town here, is really easygoing. Those 188 pound-feet are not exactly performance car territory, but then this doesn't need to be a performance car. Easing about through traffic, the Kona picks up really easily. But what's particularly interesting now is how Hyundai has iterated its regenerative braking systems. By tapping into the same set of sensors that power the adaptive cruise and highway driving assist, the Kona Electric actually keeps track of the car in front of it and will adjust its foot-off regenerative braking force to suit a safe follow distance. Picking up as you leave town, of course, you get Hyundai's usual suite of very strong driver assists. That means really clear and confident lane follow. Those who prefer a more active drive will probably turn this off, as its little intrusions will interrupt their feeling of control. But if you're just cruising about without too much worry, well, as you can see here, it's doing the job just fine. I'm paying attention, but I'm also paying attention to you. I'm just keeping a hand on the wheel to keep the systems happy, and my foot isn't on the accelerator at all right now. Pick it up further on the highway, and Hyundai is now at its Highway Driver Assist 2. This includes some really handy features, the standout among which is not just lane centering, but an ability for the vehicle to bias itself to one side or the other within a lane, depending on whether there is traffic on either side. You don't have to use it, but particularly on long highway runs, it significantly reduces driver fatigue. All that, though, leads to the disappointment, which is that this car does not drive quite like the all-wheel drive gas model. Without getting too far into the weeds, the front versus all-wheel drive models of the new Kona use very different suspension setups out back. All-wheel drive models with their multi-link feel relatively steady. This here front drive EV, however, does not like hitting bumps around bends. Oh boy. That torsion rear end is softly sprung, but feels underdamped. It's bouncy, it's skippy, it's hoppy. If you load it up, such as going around an on-ramp as you go across an expansion joint, this car shows a tendency to hop about. Here in the wet today on the coast of Vancouver Island, we've even seen the back of one of these cars get a little bit loose. That's not exactly a trait that you want to see in an everyday commuter like this. Compounding this too is the weight of the battery in the floor of the car. That adds that much more mass, that much more inertia to each and every bounce. So then, we've got a rich set of assists. We've got a nice in-town drive, if a slightly compromised higher speed or twisty road drive. What about the everyday EV realities of charging this thing? Well, the Kona Electric doesn't use quite the same setup that we're used to seeing in the Hyundai and Kia products like the EV6 and the Ioniq 5. Whereas the Ioniq 5, with its even bigger battery, will charge at a claimed 18 minutes from 10 to 80%, this here would take 43 minutes to do the same in peak conditions on a fast charger. that really does bring this particular Hyundai offering away from the head of the pack and just back into middling territory. It's respectable for the price, but it's not impressive. And now that brings us to price. 2024 Hyundai Kona Electric starts in Canada at $46,400. That's with your sole available 65 kilowatt hour battery. But if you want to step it up to the fully loaded Ultimate, you're looking at $51,200. That does feel a fair bit for a Kona, but then again, 420 kilometers range is arguably more than most Canadians even need. This is a really attractive offering, and despite its troubles through the corners there, I've got to say, this is one of the most impressive and accessible electric products I've seen lately. For Driving.ca, I'm Al Alder. For more electric vehicle news, reviews, previews, specs, tech, and all the rest, be sure to follow us online on Driving.ca and check out our socials.